Alright, Dragon Age the Veilguard. I can't believe it's been like what, more than a decade since the previous Dragon Age game, but we got a 20-minute gameplay reveal which looks absolutely sublime, and we also have a ton of information on everything about it, from character creation to player hubs to mission structure, romance, and everything in between. So lots to talk about in this video. Now, at the start of the gameplay reveal, we have a first look at Minrathous, the capital of the winter and one of the largest human cities. We of course have the action unpacking over here, but we don't fully know if the area is completely explorable or if it's a more linear section. However, something tells me that we're going to be able to come back at a later date and maybe explore more of the city. Now, when they teased the intro of this gameplay reveal on their Twitter page, honestly, I was so relieved that BioWare pulled off the gameplay properly. I bet a lot of folks out there were too, because the initial trailer reveal from a couple of days prior just didn't hit the mark at all. So the contrast here of lights and shadows, vibrant colors, and shiny effects look amazing. Of course, this game is played on the latest iteration of EA's Frostbite engine. And I'm still surprised that BioWare still never abandoned it after all the trouble they had in the past, this being more suited for a first-person type of game, but after so many years, I guess they surely finally made it. Now, we do have some info on the performance side as well. BioWare is targeting 60 FPS with the Veilguard, and on the console, there's going to be options between performance and quality mode, no doubt favoring either FPS or graphics depending on the type of player you are. So this scene right here is very early on, possibly the first or second mission, continuing pretty much from the cliffhanger we had with Solus at the end of Dragon Age Inquisition. And for those who have a foggy memory, since it's been quite a long time since then, Varric is going to recap and narrate the start of the story and also bring us up to date with everything. But as we go further into Minrathous, yeah, it's clearly being under siege by the demons set loose as Solus is trying to break the barrier between our world and the Veil. So this scene apparently is very early in the game, and the reason we see them jump straight into the action is because that's exactly what BioWare wants us to do, jump straight into the action from very early on. So after that quick recap is done, we go through this scene, and this is when we also jump straight into the character customization. Rook is going to be our character. He just joined the ranks of the Inquisition alongside other Dragon Age heroes. So from this point on, this is when the party forms. So let's talk a bit about the character customization. We did not unfortunately see any of it as it was skipped in the gameplay preview, but we do have some information on it from BioWare. So it still includes the option between the four main races, including humans, elves, dwarves, and the Qunari. However, we also get to choose backgrounds, which more or less align with the various factions of the Veilguard. So you can definitely expect extra dialogues with companions that might also be of the same factions. Some of the confirmed factions so far were the Grey Wardens. We also know of the Antivan Crows, and of course in this case our character played as a Shadow Dragon, but there are 3 other factions available besides these. But with this being an early mission, we also don't get to see one of the core features of Dragon Age, which is its party system. We only got to control Rook for now, but BioWare clarified later on that this feature unlocks a bit later after this. I know there's been quite a bit of speculation online about it, but yes, the game still indeed brings back the party system, albeit with some changes. So let's check them out. Now, the main one, of course, is that the party size has now been reduced from 4 party members to only 3. This might sound like a drawback, but there are a few reasons behind this, which kind of makes sense. On one side is that the game is a lot more action focused, including animation cancelling and so on. And on the other side, there are more interactions and combos between team members too, as we're gonna see in just a bit when we break down the combat system. BioWare mentions the inclusions of sophisticated animation cancelling and branching, with a design centered around dodging, countering, and using risk-reward charge attacks designed to break enemy armor layers. I think them starting the previews with the Rogue class shows this perfectly. The class looks quite a bit more acrobatic, even nimbler than it used to be in Inquisition at the very least, incorporating a lot more dodges and chain attacks between even multiple targets at the same time. Almost like a stylish dance that you can do, but obviously this is going to depend on your choice. We've also seen it having a way to parry spells and even reflect them back at the target. And there's this very interesting sort of animation selection with different abilities that we can choose. So again, a bigger breakdown video will come up really soon. In fact, rogues will feature 3 completely new subclasses, including the duelist, the saboteur, and the veil jumper. So again, a video focusing a bit more on this is going to follow really soon. Also on the subject of teammates, their skill trees of course are going to make a return. Just like in the previous Dragon Age games, they do have their own class system. They can respec into subclasses, fit them with gear, and so on. But this time around, the bonds you form with them, including via dialogue options and other story moments, this is going to impact how they grow and what abilities become available, at least according to BioWare. It sounds like it goes a bit beyond just having them in your group and leveling up as you journey together, and almost like your decisions might impact what types of abilities you get. And maybe reading too much into this maybe, but you never know. BioWare always adds something new or reinvents things in their newest Dragon Age games. And this level of action and consequences seem to be of a high priority in the Veilguard. Another aspect that will play a major role are resistances and enemy weaknesses when it comes to combat, with many skills actually designed to exploit them. So in one of the examples I mentioned previously, one character can actually place a weakening debuff on the target, while another one can detonate them. If you played previous BioWare games, they always like doing this, like setting combustions and then explosions. This was also a mechanic present in some of the previous Mass Effect games. Besides this, we've seen the UI change quite a bit, though quite reminiscent of the old Dragon Age Inquisition, so still very minimalistic, at least on the console version we see here, which, yeah, in this case the difference is that now we have the icons in the center of the screen rather than on the side. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to look like on the PC. Previously we had that MMO style skill bar at the bottom, so maybe they also changed that up into something a bit more minimalistic. Now, one thing I'm very excited to see is the player hub. We haven't actually seen this at all. We do know that there is one, and it's called the Lighthouse. So Inquisition had Skyhold, Mass Effect has Normandy, the Veilguard gets the Lighthouse. So we know that between missions, players will be repeatedly returning to this location over here for additional interactions. This serves both as our base of operations, so expect much of the romance, mission selection, and also dialogues to be present over here. Also extra side missions, vendors, crafting stations, maybe even extra interior customization like we had back in the previous Dragon Age. Skyhold also used to be a place where we got to and start side quests to unlock additional subclasses, so maybe that's how it's going to work here as well, but we're gonna wait and see. Speaking of character dialogues and romances, like I said, a lot of it is going to be done in the Lighthouse too, but others in the story moments as well. But romance, of course, is going to be a major talking point in Dragon Age, and there is a lot to digest here. Inquisition had so many romanceable companions, but the Veilguard will feature really complex character arcs filled with backstories, deep motivations, missions that are unique to them, that ultimately tie into the larger story, according to BioWare's game director. Along the way, we'll have to make decisions, many times with some heavy consequences affecting those who accompany us. There's a different interview with Game Rant with John Epler, which pretty much confirms all characters in the Veilguard can be romanceable by the Rook. I believe that previously some of them were depending on the gender of your character. So there is a comparison to be drawn here. We're actually going back full circle with Baldur's Gate 3, which previously got inspiration from previous Dragon Age games. So that one also set a really high standard to just, yeah, character romances. So just like in Baldur's Gate 3, which took a similar approach to letting the player pursue pretty much all love interests, regardless of the character gender, that's going to be the case here as well. So you can romance, I guess, pretty much everybody. Now, mission structure-wise, we do have some information on that via an interview over by IGN. The game's director also went over how mission structures are being handled. So everything is going to be hand-touched, as you would expect. Handcrafted, very highly curated. So as he mentions, we believe that's how we get the best narrative and moment-to-moment experience. However, along the way, these levels open up. Some of them have more exploration than others, and alternative branching paths. Also mysteries, secrets, optional content that you've got to find and solve. As far as side content and side quests, some of them are highly curated as well, especially ones involving your companions. So we're getting companion missions just like before. We're really moving along with this journey with them. Sounds very much like a Dragon Age game to me, in my opinion. The game has always been very handcrafted. You had this very linear sort of story with a few branching narratives here, which also seems to be the case in the Veilguard. We do see some options. As early as the first few missions in the Veilguard, you can already like accompany a certain character or send them into a perilous situation on their own. It depends on how you want to play it out, but I guess this also means we should expect maybe losing some of them. Not all, maybe. There have been some hints that, yeah, some of them can actually be killed off depending on the choices, or maybe even as you progress through the story. We also saw some of those hints being shown in the initial gameplay reveal, but nothing like too conclusive just yet. Overall, I'm looking at the game and it looks exactly like what I want from a Dragon Age game, like all of the cool things I enjoyed in Inquisition, but like so much better and so many cool new things to just fiddle around with. Especially if you know me, I absolutely love class systems, enjoying like builds and coming up with cool things, so definitely something that I cannot wait to jump into in the Veilguard. So far, really high expectations, but the gameplay reveal definitely put my mind at ease with many of the things that BioWare could have messed up. I guess the only somewhat worry I have left is that this is, I believe, the third or fourth iteration of the game. It did suffer a pretty convoluted development cycle. It did go through a few redesigns, and I believe this is the last one that they settled on. Also, the Veilguard just doesn't have the same punchline as Dreadwolf used to have. I kind of preferred that title, but I'm not gonna care too much about it once I get my hands on the game. But that's about it with it. Let me know down below what things are you excited about in Dragon Age the Veilguard, or are there any worries you still have about it? Also, make sure you stay tuned for more Dragon Age content like this by liking this video, subscribing, and activating that notification bell. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.